that it's going to cost $1 million to treat them over the next year and a half while they're in the process of dying. So why don't you let us just put you to sleep and save our country $1 million? This is the way it's going to work.
Right. And you have people that have never gone to any kind of medical school or anything like that. Some of them never even finished college. And they're going to tell you what kind of health care you need.
No, that's the ACORN group.
Right.
I mean,
so,
there's no better way to describe them than trash, human trash. And but that's what this administration is all about. I mean, they got to change all the rules of the No Child Left Behind Act, and essentially what it amounts to is that they're going to either lessen the tests, making them easier, or having none at all, and everybody gets out of high school with a degree, and they all go on to college. So they will destroy the value of those degrees totally. But that's the intention, to destroy the educational system of the country and elevate minorities, because minorities that start the 9th grade in inner cities, only about 60% of them on average graduate from high school. And of course, these are the same people I want to put in a university. It's true, full-force Marxism. And the man is a Marxist, and he's a part of a group of people called the Illuminati that want world government. And this is one of the ways to get there, by dumbing down the public so they'll more easily accept world government.
Well, we have an article that I came across last week where 25% of the public in Germany would actually take a microchip if it meant that they can get discounts during shopping or just making life easier for them.
Well, that's certainly explainable. There's dumb people in every society, and I'm surprised that the figure's so low. I would have thought it would have been 40 or 50%. But maybe Germany has an outstanding society today, and maybe the figure would be 50% in the United States. I don't know, but that's what I would expect. I lived in Germany for a long time, in Switzerland, and I speak their languages, and so I understand them very well. And so 25% is not a very high amount. And there's a lot of people who don't pay any attention to anything. And they are dumb in every society.
Right. And, well, since you've lived in many different countries, did you live in Thailand at one time, too?
Never been in the East. Never been in Asia.
Okay. You just stuck in South Africa and Europe.
Well, I lived in Europe and all over Europe for a number of years. In Africa, I lived there for 3 years. Been in many other places other than South Africa and Zimbabwe, and I lived in the Bahamas and Costa Rica, Panama, Uruguay, Mexico, Canada. So I've been around.
Yeah, and an undisclosed location right now, of course.
Of course. And that's because I'm rather outspoken.
I don't blame you. Now, I was going to ask about Thailand. There was an article that came out where they're collecting blood from its younger people so that they can use it in protests. I'm not quite understanding the story, but it looks like Thailand is fearing that they're the next Greece or Spain, which the economy just basically implodes.
Well, it could be. I hadn't heard that story.
Yeah, it was on the Drudge Report last night, right after I got off the air, and I was going to cover it, but I figured, well, I'll save it for today.
When you saved it for the wrong guy.
No, but every country is going to go through this same scenario here. It's just a matter of time before every domino falls over.
Well, I projected out that there are 19 major countries that are bankrupt, and the U.S. and England are two of them. And I think in the next 2 years that there will be a meeting like they had at the Smithsonian meetings back in the early 1970s, and also the Plaza Accord in 85 and the Louvre Accord in 87 in Paris. And they were conferences where there were devaluation and defaults that were settled among countries. We're going to have that again. All nations are going to devalue. And there'll be a default. Probably they'll write off 2/3 of the debt from country to country. And I think that currencies will be devalued probably by 2/3. It'll vary from country. 2/3. In other words, in America, a devaluation, you would give the government 3 old dollars and they'd give you 1 new one. And I think that'll be rather universal, because when one nation has to devalue, they all want to, if it's a major nation, because they can't compete. And so they have to rig the game again by everybody doing that. But I think Great Britain may very well leave the European Union, and they're not in the Eurozone. And if they do that, they'll implement tariffs. And then the United States will do it in a big way. And then we'll have tariffs overall on goods and services, and NAFTA will die, and the World Trade Organization will die, which are burials that I would like to attend. And and that could, in time, turn the United States around. We will have a depression which will last an absolute minimum of 5 years, maybe 20 or 30 years for all I know. We won't know until we get there. And it'll be preceded now with inflation and perhaps hyperinflation over the next 2 years before the bottom falls out on all these countries. Because by that time, there'll be more than 19. And these 19 and others are still piling on massive debt. And nobody seems to care. And, look at the projections we've got from the U.S. Administration now. They're talking about $1.567 trillion for the year ended September 30th. And the projection by the Congressional Budget Office is even more conservative than what Obama's projected, which in all intents and purposes is $1 trillion a year. And that's bad. But we have no way of paying it back, and we have no way of financing the interest on the debt, because the Fed's already buying 80% of the debt that the Treasury is issuing, and they make their money up out of thin air. I mean, the whole thing is insanity.
Now, let me, since we're talking about the currency devaluation, let me get into your thoughts here on what came out with the banks recently, where they have up to 7 days to give you your money. If you go to the bank and say you have $50,000 in the bank and you want to take out $1,200, they could tell you, all right, well, we have up to 7 days to pay you, so here's a slip, and you can come back next Tuesday.
Well, they also might say you've got $50,000 and you want $50,000, but we can't give it to you, so every 7 days we'll give you $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it would take you, 10 weeks to get your money. So how do you solve that problem? You solve it by only leaving enough money in the bank to pay current bills for 3 months. So if you're spending $3,000 a month on bills, you have $9,000 in there perpetually. no more. And with
well, I would
businesses,
say it's probably safer to just go to the bank once a month and just put your money in one lump sum of $3,000 and just be done with it. This way, if they close down, you're not stuck for the other 6.
well, you know, most people don't want to do that.
Okay.
And they're too lazy. They have no foresight, and they just simply don't want to do that. And so, for business, I recommend 6 months. They have to have a cash flow, and they've got to use the banks. I have recommended that nobody own bank CDs, credit union CDs. If they do, they certainly are looking for trouble, even if they're under $250,000. And I think that the FDIC, which insures accounts,